Hann-Made studio. I'm Cheryl Hann-Woodlock. Today we are going to create birds. These birds are going to be on a totem pole. So we're going to start soon. I'll show you how. Bye. I'd like to say thank you everybody for watching. Hi everybody. The materials that you're going to need for today's class. I'm actually using raku clay. It's a little bit different. It's very gritty, but it stands up really well to a lot of abuse. So this one is by Feeney's. It's actually Feeney's Buff Raku. So that's the clay I'm using today. You are also going to need a cloth for rolling out well on. You're going to need a rolling pin to roll out your clay, a knife, that's for cutting and for joining. You'll also need some slip or slurry, and you will need a sponge to keep your hands nice and moist. So that's about it, and we'll see you soon. Before we start, I forgot to mention we're going to need newspaper. That's to fill up our pinch pot so it doesn't collapse, because we're going to do a lot of work to it. So go and grab your newspaper now and then come back. Okay, we're ready to start making our pinch pots. We're going to make two halves. This is quite a thick clay. As I said, it's quite robust. And make sure your two pieces are roughly the same size. Now we can start doing our pinch pot. If you've done this pinch pot technique before, just fast forward and then come back, okay? All right, for those of you who are staying, what we're going to be doing is tapping this into a round shape. So we're just using our hand, and we're using this part of our hand, and just keep tapping this ball. There you go. That's one. Okay, we've now got our other ball. With the first one, we're going to go g'day with our thumb. We're going to press our thumb into the clay, and we're going to get it within around about 1.5 centimeters from the bottom. We want this to be quite thick because these are really quite large pieces, and we want them to be robust when we're actually decorating and not collapse. Now, they're called a pinch pot because you're actually going to be pinching. All right, so we're going to start at the bottom of this pinch pot, that's the bottom, and we're going to just gently press around the bottom. The holes become slightly larger. Now I'm going to go up a little bit higher and press around again. The pot's getting bigger, so when you can see the difference, this pot now is getting larger. Now I'm going to go up a little bit higher again and then pinch around. Now with the pinching, remember you can actually feel the thickness of the walls, and I don't go around once. I usually go around about 3 or 4 times. So let's go again. And now I have my pinch pot. The walls, the walls are very thick, and that's so that when I'm starting to decorate this, it's not going to collapse. Time for number 2. Let's fast forward. I now have 2 pieces. They're not exactly the same. That's okay, but they're roughly the same. What I want is roughly the same width. So they're the same where I'm going to join them. But before I'm going to join them, what I want is a longer piece for my bird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll out a coil. Now, a coil is a sausage. When I'm working with children, they call it a sausage. I've got a really big piece of clay here. That's going to be miles too big. I'm going to make that smaller. So I'm just squishing it into roughly a round shape. Now I'm going to roll it on my board. When you're rolling, take your time, don't go too quickly, otherwise it will go square. You also need a fair bit of space to make sure it rolls in a full circle. Now that's a very thick coil, but it will thin down. This coil is now going to be attached to my pot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach this coil using this motion. So my thumb is actually pushing the clay down into the pot. Almost at the end, just pull that off, join those two together, smooth that down. I've got a little bit of mess there. I can smooth it back, but it doesn't have to be smooth. Now I've got this coil here, I'm going to smooth that back. Going down and smoothing that. It's quite rough, but that's okay. I can smooth it back further if I want to by using a knife. And now I've made that taller. So when I have these two together, I have my short bowl, I have my tall bowl. When I join them together, I've now got more of an oval for my bird. To join these together, we need to scratch and slop to stick, but before we join them together, what I do need to do is I need to put newspaper into here. We're going to scrunch up all this newspaper and put it in. Now, if you're using a softer clay, you might want your clay to firm up a little bit before you do this. Raku clay is really quite firm, so I can be quite brutal with it and stuff it in without changing that shape. So that is around about full now. This one still needs some more. Now full. What I'm going to do is join them together, scratch and slop to stick, or score and put some slurry on to stick. So it's the 3 S's. Basically, we're roughing up this surface, so we're going to get 2 rough surfaces that are going to join together really well. There we go. Nicely roughed up. Time for my slip, slurry, or as I call it, slop. Just dab it on. I only need one side and ready to attach. When we put this on, I give it a bit of a jiggle. And you can see the slip coming out. Now I can smooth this join back. If you've got a softer clay, what you might find is when you're trying to smooth that back, it actually dents in. That's where you might need to make a coil and go around to join them. Now we've got our egg shape, our rough shape for our bird. It's still got a lot of texture on it. I can smooth this back now. Doing is I'm making more of a bean. So I'm just shaping up the bottom so it's roughly smooth. Now I can also give this a little bit of a paddle. Because I've got an airlock in there, I can just paddle that and change that shape slightly. And I could use a ruler or a wooden spoon to do this also. If I wanted to, I can use a spoon. And always look at it from your profile. Always look at it from the side so you can see what's actually happening. This is the start of our bird. I can also paddle the middle to give it more of a curve. So I now have my curve. Time to put a head on. To do our head, it's like another little pinch pop. So I've got my clay. Make a ball. Use your thumb. Press it in. That's going to sit on the head. But before I do that, I'm going to put another coil just here before I start. This coil is going to sit there and just make that neck a little bit longer through there. Now I'm not scratching and slopping with this. I'm working this coil into the clay. If you weren't working that clay in very well, you would need to scratch and slop to stick. So I've created just that nice little curve for this head to sit onto now. There we go. To stick the head on, I'm going to scratch and slop. But before I do that, I need to put a hole in here. Otherwise, I will have an air pocket in this. So I'm going to put a hole. It doesn't have to be a big hole, but I've got a hole in there and I've made it fairly large, so I know that when I play with this, in case I move it around a little bit too much, the hole's not going to close over, so we're good to go. Now, scratch and slop all around the top. That is now not stuck on particularly well, but I'm now going to smooth that in. Still not very smooth, but I'm going to keep working at that, and I'm going to go across . So I've got a nice curve going through there. Now I need to think about the tail. If I do too much on the front end and not do the bottom end, I can't work out what I really need. So let's get the tail started. Now the tail is pointy. I've got a little pointy end. So I'm going to actually make a ball with a pointy top. So I've done that ball shape. I've got my point there. What I'm going to do is tap this ball down. There you go, that's tapped down. And now I have, this will sit on the end there. It's really thick, but this clay is okay. It's just going to take a little bit longer to dry, that's all. But I need to scratch and slop to stick this well. So I've really worked that clay in. You can see that all that goop is now, all the slip is now working. So I'm really working this clay to get a nice finish. So you can see the bird's actually taking shape really, really well. Now I'm just going to give it a bit more of a paddle under his chest. They're always called he. I don't know why, but that's the way we do it. So I'm working on the side first. Now I'm going to turn it around and look at it this way to make sure I am happy with the shape in all directions. We are working on a 3D piece. Often people forget to turn their pieces around. So look at it from all angles. I think he's looking really quite lovely. Now I'm going to just press a little bit more in here just to get that nice curve happening. This is not going to have a lot of decoration because I can use it for my mosaic. If I wanted to, I could do a lot more decoration, but I'm just looking at a nice, simple form that I can easily mosaic onto. If I do too much decoration, it's going to be very hard to mosaic around it. Piece of clay, roll the ball. And then make the end pointy. Like a little teardrop. Flatten it. And then I can put that on scratch and slop to stick. So you need to work out where it's going. So if I had that up there, it looks like he's looking up. If I have this down here, it looks like he's looking down. You need to decide where you're going to put your beak. So is he going to be looking up or is he going to look down? I think I might have him looking up. I'm not going to smooth the beak in because when I mosaic it, we're going to get the tiles going right up to the beak. So the beak can look a little bit larger because the tiles are actually going to sit a little bit higher than the actual clay body. So we're going to have at least another 3 to 4 millimeters of thickness with our tiles. So he is looking really, really cute. He's almost finished. The thing I need to do now is I need to put a hole in so he can go on the pole. You need to make sure you know how big your hole is. I've got a piece of Rio and I know it needs to be around about 2 centimeters. My hole needs to be at least 2 centimeters. So I'm just going to get my knife, twist around. Easier to have a bigger hole than one too small. So that's a nice size hole. Turn him upside down. You can measure it to make sure you've got it exactly where you want. I don't mind if mine's a little bit lopsided that way or a little bit lopsided that way. That's fine, but he's pretty much even. And that is my bird. So we've made our bird. Go to the next tutorial and then you will see how to make the spaces, the rest of the totem pole. Thank you for watching. Bye. Hi everybody, I'm just washing my hands. I'd like to say thank you very, very much for watching. If you've enjoyed making this bird, and I'm sure you have, could you please hit that like button? Also remember to ring that bell and subscribe. I'm Cheryl Hann-Woodlock from Hann-Made Studio saying thank you for watching. Bye.